Good morning, guys. I've had some requests for some extra support with the place value that we've been working on in class. So I'm just going to do a quick informal video to get you guys going. It's just going to be a super quick run through of everything we've learned about place value so far. So take a look and hopefully it will help you if you're still having any problems with a certain area. All right, let's get started. All right, the first thing we're going to take a look at is our different forms, which most folks did pretty well with this. Standard form is just going to be the basic way that we would write the number using commas and decimal points. Word form is when we would write it out in words. So 3,000 451. And remember, when we go across this decimal, we make sure we say and 49 hundredths. Okay, so that is word form there. Expanded form, I want to touch on this because there's two different ways that we can do this. Some of you have broken this down and decomposed the number, and you've said 3,000 plus 400 plus 50 plus 1, and then you get to the decimal over here and you get a little stumped. But for this you can say plus 4/10, because that's in the tenths place, plus 9 hundredths, because that's in the hundredths place. And I'm off the camera. Sorry about that. The other way that we can do this is to decompose this even further, and it is more time consuming, but it would look like this. We could say 3 times 1,000, because that's in the thousands place, plus 4 times 100, plus 5 times 10, we're in the tens place, plus 1 times 1, because of the ones place, plus, and then you could go back to just saying 4/10 or 4 1/10 and 9, oops, there we go, times 100. So there's two different versions of expanded form. I just want to make you aware of those in case you see one or the other. Okay. So here's one for you to try yourself and see if you can do that one on your own. You can stop the video for a second if you need to and try this one. Okay, we also looked at powers of tens, and we looked at this chart and we looked for the pattern. And as we looked, we quickly discovered that our little exponent over here tells us how many zeros we have. So 10 to the second power is going to be a 1, and it's going to have 2 zeros. 10 to the third power, a 1 and 3 zeros. And this pattern goes on forever to infinity. What this is actually telling us is 10 to the second really means it's 10 times 10. 10 to the fifth would mean 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So if I ask you, if I gave you a number, and I know that they did this in Study Island, in USA Test Prep. If they were to give you this number and ask you to put this in, to write this with an exponent, how would you do that? Well, you would say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros. So this number is actually 10 to the 9th. So powers of tens is actually a great way to look at patterns, because these powers are based on patterns. All right, so we're going to keep moving on. So here is one for you to try. Take a look. So if you were to write 1,000 as a power of 10, how would you do that? So here's my number, 1,000. And I see I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So 1,000 is equivalent to 10 to the 3rd power. And these, as I said, these can be huge. Like this one. So here's another one. If you were going to do this one, and you were going to write this number as a power of 10. So take a look at your number here. And I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros there. So this is going to be 10 to the 9th power. Okay, moving on. And we looked at these in class. I just wanted to pull a few of these. We looked at some fancy cars here with some pretty big price tags. And we looked at this and we said this Ferrari cost 2 times 10 to the 5th. So we said, well, first of all, let's figure out what is 10 to the 5th. So that's going to be a 1, and I'm going to have 5 zeros. So that's 100,000. Oops, I'm off the camera, sorry. 100,000. So now I just have 2 times 100,000. So I know that Ferrari cost $200,000. All right, here's another one that we looked at. Here's another fancy car. This Bugatti costs 3 times 10 to the 6th. Well, let's figure out what 10 to the 6th is. That's 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. I'm going to put my commas in there. So that's 1 million. So now I'm going to put this 3. I have 3 times 1 million. So I know that car costs $3 million, which seems a little ridiculous to me. Okay, here's one more car before we move on. This one is 2 times 10 to the 5th. So looking at this one, 10 to the 5th is going to be a 1, and then I have 5 zeros. So that's $100,000. So then I have 2 times $100,000, which means this little Audi Spider costs $200,000. Okay, so let's move on. We did on August 28th, our class went over lots of these examples, so if you need to go back and get the recording. All right, so let's take a look at this one here. This is where we're comparing place values. So starting off here, I have the number 358,356. And it says the 5 in the 10,000s place. Well, let me find that first. That's right there. And I know if there's a 5 in the 10,000s place, the value is going to be 50,000. And then it says, is blank the value of the 5 in the tens place? Well, here's the 5 in the tens place, and I know the value of that is going to be 50. So I am comparing here I'm comparing 50,000 with 50. So when I look at this, I see that I've got to take 1, 2, 3 hops to get from one to the other. So what I know is this is either going to be 1,000, because there's my 3 hops, 1, 2, 3, so 3 zeros. It's going to be 1,000 times bigger. So if it's 1,000 times bigger, I can just write 1,000 times. Or if it's going to be 1,000 times smaller, I can write it as a fraction. So 1/1000th. So these are my two choices here. Is the 50,000 1,000 times greater than 50, or is it 1,000 times smaller than 50? And I know that it's actually 1,000 times greater. So that's how you would complete these problems. Sometimes you really need to use some scratch paper, and don't try and just do it in your head. That can get you into a lot of trouble. Take a look at this one. The 1 in the tens place. So there's the 1 in the tens place. I know that has a value of 10. Is blank the value of the 1 in the hundreds place? So there's the 1 in the hundreds place. They're all kind of close together there. So I know that's 100. So to go from the tens to the hundreds place, that's only one jump. So I know that's going to be 10. But is it 10 times bigger? So that would be 10 times bigger. Or is it 10 times smaller, which would be the fraction 1/10? So which is it? It says the 1 in the tens place is blank the value of the 1 in the hundreds place. So 100 is definitely bigger than 10. So when I'm comparing the two, that tens place is smaller. So I know that it's going to be 1/10. And read it back to make sure that it makes sense. The 1 in the tens place is 1/10 the value of the 1 in the hundreds place. All right. So just be careful, and you can even write your two choices down to give you an idea of what you're choosing from. Here's another one. All right. The 4 in the ones place. So I have 4,214. The 4 in the ones place over here, and I know that has a value of 4, is blank the value of the 4 in the thousands place. So over here is my 4 in the thousands place, and I know that has a value of 4,000. So how many jumps does it take to go from one to the other? So it takes 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be 1,000 because there's 3 jumps and then there's 3 zeros. So is it going to be 1,000 times bigger or 1,000 times smaller? So the 4 in the ones place is blank the value of the 4 in the thousands place. This little 4 over here is a lot smaller in value than this guy. So it's going to be 1/1000th. That says that it is smaller. Okay. Now, let's look at these. And we looked at this. This is from the video from the Class Connect from today, which is August 30th. If you need to go back and grab this one. So taking a look at this, we were working on moving the decimals using powers of 10. Remember we said when you multiply, the number's going to get larger. So you're going to move your decimal to the right. And so if I am going to multiply 923 and 1400ths by 1,000, I see here that I have 3 zeros. I'm actually going to rewrite this down here so I've got some room. and I need to move it to the right. So I need to move the decimal point to the right 3 times. So I'm going to say 1, 2. Well, there's no number. There's no extra number down here. So I'm going to just put a placeholder here. So I now see that the product of this, 923 and 1400ths times 1,000, is going to give me 923,140. So let's look at what happens if we divide. So remember, with division, we're going to move to the left. We're moving that decimal to the left because we're going to make the number smaller. So we're dividing by 1,000 again here. There's 3 zeros, so that tells me I need to move it back 3 places. Let me write it down here again. So when I move this back 3 places to the left, I have 1, 2, 3. That decimal is going to go right there. So now my product looks like this. So just remember, multiplication to the right, division to the left, and then be careful what power of 10 you're moving to. Let me flip this over because we could actually have something that looked like this. I didn't even think about this. What if I had... What if I had something like that? That's actually a 2-step problem. First of all, I need to figure out what 10 to the second is. Well, I know that's going to be a 1 and have 2 zeros. So now my problem is 3 42/100ths times 100. So now I can look at this and I can say, okay, I'm multiplying, so I'm making the number bigger. I need to move the decimal to the right, and I'm going to move it to the right 2 times. So 1, 2, and it lands there. So my product would be 342. All right, that's just kind of a side note if you come across something like that. All right, here's another one. We're going to move through these quickly here. So here I'm dividing. So I'm going to move to the left because my number is going to be smaller. And I'm going to move my decimal point back 2 places. So 1, 2. So my quotient here would look like that. And then down here for multiplication, remember I'm going to move that to the right because my number is going to get larger, and I'm going to move that decimal point over twice. So 1, 2. So my answer here would be 14,592. All right. Here's one for you to pause the video and take a look at. See if you can figure this one out. And actually, because this one is a little bit tricky, let me walk you through this one. You can pause the video and try it yourself. We are dividing, so we're going to move this to the left. But I don't have a decimal point showing here in this number. That decimal point, even though we don't write it, is right there. Because you guys know that if you go to the store and you see something that says it's $13, that's the same as this, $13. So there is always a little decimal there after the whole number, even if it's not written there. So that's a little bit tricky. If we're going to divide this, we see that we're going to divide by we're going to move that 2 times. We're dividing by 100, so we're going to go back to 1, 2. So our quotient is 13/100ths. Down here, once again, and I'm actually going to write this one down here. So here's my number 13. I don't have a decimal written, but I know that decimal's right there. And I know that I'm multiplying, so I move it to the right, and I move it to the right 2 times. So 1, 2, it's going to land here. I don't have any other numbers here, so I'm going to have to put some placeholder numbers in there. So this product ends up being 1,300. Okay. Here's where I want to point out a little bit of a trick for you. I told you guys that when you see a fraction, it actually means a division fact. This little bar right here is actually a sign for division. It's just a way to write a division problem. So this says it's 420 times 1/100th. Well, 1/100th means we're going to make it smaller. So this 420 times 1/100th is actually the same as this. 420 divided by 100. They mean the same thing. They're just written a little differently. Let's pop up and do this one first here. Here we're multiplying, so we're moving to the right twice. All right, so there's 420, and I know my decimal is right there. And I need to move it over 2 places, 1, 2. And I have to put in some placeholder zeros there so that I know my product ends up being 42,000. Oops, I'm off the screen, sorry. Down here, you can rewrite this if this confuses you like this. If you want to take this part and rewrite it and put divided by 100, you certainly can. Divided by means I'm going to the left, and I'm going to go to the left twice. So 1, 2. So 420 divided by 100, or 420 times 1/100th is going to give me 4 and 20/100ths. So that's just a little snag to watch for. Here's another one. We're going to work this quickly here. I think you're probably catching on very quickly. Multiplying, we're moving to the right. And here we're going to go to the right 2 times. So 1, 2. And I've got to put a placeholder 0 in here. So that's going to be 1,630 is my product there. And here's one of these crazy tricky ones where I'm multiplying by a fraction, which really means I'm just dividing by 100. So the dividing by 100 part I can handle. So I have 16 3/10 divided by 100. I know that division goes to the left, so I'm going to work it back 1, 2 times. And so my quotient here is 163 thousandths. Okay. This is one that showed up in USA Test Prep, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention so you don't panic when you see it. And they give you answer choices as well. But take a look at this. These are the same numbers here. They're asking you what goes in the box here. I see over here that my decimal, I'm going to write this again here. There, and okay, so you see that the decimal scooched over 1 spot. Here to here. So how do I get this decimal to move 1 place to the right? Well, think about that. To make it move 1 place, I know that would be 10, and to make it move to the right, it's times 10. They had already given me the multiplication symbol here. So that's just one way to take a look at this. I know this exact problem showed up in USA Test Prep. Here's another one, and we've been doing these in class. These are just for practice. But if you need some help remembering how to do this, remember when you are multiplying, you're moving the decimal to the right because you're making your number bigger. So this here, if my decimal starts here and I'm multiplying by 10, I'm going to move the decimal over one place, and I end up with 4,231 and 6/10. I should write that over here a little more clearly. If I'm multiplying by 100, I am going to move to the right 2 places. So I would move this decimal 2 places. If I'm multiplying times 1,000, I'm going to move it 3 places, which in this case, it's here, and I've got to move 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to have to put a 0 in here as a placeholder. So these are just some that we've been doing in class. They're great, a great way to review. Division, remember you're going to the left. Here we're dividing by 10, so we're going to go to the left once. Oops, so there we go. So it would land there, and now I would have, this would be my quotient here. Here I'm going to the left 2 times, so 1, 2. And down here I'm going to the left 3 times, so 1, 2, 3. All right, so that covers most of what we have done in class over the last few sessions for place value. So if you still need some help, let me know and we'll go through some more of these and I will get you some resources. But hopefully this helps and this will get you headed in the right direction. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good afternoon.